Home to surprise hubby.
Relax, I'm definitely getting with this divorce. She's been divorced twice already. People have stabbed her in the back long enough, there's no way she'd dare go through with a third one.
You really know how to play it, handing over the divorce papers on April Fool's Day. Even if she kicks up a fuss afterward, you just turn around and say it was a joke, sweet-tunk her a bit, and it'll blow over. Could she seriously hold it against you?
Don't forget the pact we made back in our senior year of high school. Wendy's wedding is next week, and for her bachelorette party, all of us have to be single.
I turned and walked away, taking shelter in the cafe across from the residential complex. Clutching the coffee cup tightly, memories of the past flooded back. The first time I got married, it was to help my childhood friend Sean fight for the family inheritance. His grandfather was satisfied with my family background and status and handed the inheritance rights to him, the youngest grandson. The second time I got married, it was to help my sworn brother Chris escape an arranged marriage. All the socialites in town heard I'd married him. All gave up. I never thought all I'd given would become their excuse to judge me. I sat in the cafe for a full hour before I finally headed back home. Seeing me come back, Ethan walked over to take my luggage.
Why didn't you tell me you were coming back? I would have come to pick you up.
Just as gentle as always.
Have you eaten?
Yes, I have.
Oh, right, honey. There's something I need to talk to you about.
I set down the things in my hand and turned to look at him.
Company's run into some trouble, and we need to do an asset isolation. Our lawyer suggested we go through the divorce procedures first, just as a formality.
I glanced down, and it was a divorce agreement. He had everything ready so quickly.
Once the heat dies down, we'll get remarried. It'll only be a couple of months. I know this is a bit out of the blue, but Sean and Chris called today and they kept sneering at me, saying you didn't hesitate for a second when you helped them, but you'd refuse to do the same for me.
They also said a woman who's been divorced twice would never dare to do it a third time, that you definitely wouldn't have the nerve to go through with it.
I've already got it all figured out. Tomorrow just happens to be April Fool's Day. Let's go handle it that day, then we can slam the divorce certificate in their faces, shock them silly, and make sure they never dare to look down on you again.
It's April Fool's Day anyway. Anything we say can be passed off as a joke. Once the heat on the company dies down, we'll get our marriage certificate back properly, and no one will say a thing.
Honey, you're not actually gonna let them look down on me, are you?
I looked into his eyes. Had just been clinking glasses with those two men, celebrating and saying,
She won't make a fuss.
Won't.
Then you get some rest first. Tomorrow's the start of the month. We'll sign the agreement first thing and then head over.
I took the pen, flipped to the last page, and signed my name neatly and swiftly. Give them a call. Tell them to stop going on about it. He smiled and put the agreement away, then leaned in and kissed me.
My wife is the best.
He took the agreement to the study to make a call. His voice wasn't loud, but through the closed door, I still heard every word.
She signed it.
What did I tell you? Scarlett is the easiest to fool. All right, you two help me keep Wendy steady on your end. I'll head over once I'm done here.
I sat in the room for a very long time. My phone buzzed once. It was a message from Chris.
Haven't seen you in ages. Want to meet up?
Once, I would have replied, yes. I would have thought carefully about what to wear, what makeup to put on. I would have thought about how to uphold Ethan's dignity in front of them, to let them know I'd married well. I would have tried to make them stop feuding with Ethan. After all, on one side were the friends I'd grown up with. On the other was the husband I loved deeply. They were all people I cared about deeply. I didn't want them to be stuck in this hostile state for the rest of their lives. But now, I couldn't even be balcony to bring in the laundry. As I passed the study, Ethan was still on the phone. His voice was very low, but carried a kind of laughter I had never heard before. That kind of laugh, as if he no longer needed to act, to pretend. It suddenly hit me that in all the time we'd been together, he'd never spoken to me like that. The wind was strong on the balcony. I took the clothes off the hangers one by one, folded them neatly, and put them in the laundry basket. When I'd put away the last piece, my phone lit up again. This time it was a message from Sean.
Heard you're getting divorced again. Ethan is such a jerk. He doesn't deserve you. Don't be upset. Your grandfather's 81st birthday party is in a few days. Chris and I are going to wish him a happy birthday. We should catch up properly.
I let out a bitter laugh. What beautiful words, as if he wasn't one of the three in that living room that day.
Big deal out of it?
Person my stepsister Wendy really was, worth the three of them going through so much scheming to keep a pact, treating me as a tool to achieve their goal. None of it mattered. I picked up the laundry basket and turned back into the house. As I passed the study, I didn't pause my steps for a second. Warm yellow light seeped through the crack in the door. Starting tomorrow, none of this has anything to do with me anymore. I just set down the laundry basket when the doorbell rang. I walked to open the door. Outside the door was a very drunk Wendy. I knew you'd still be awake. Ethan instinctively glanced back at me.
What are you doing here?
She didn't answer until he saw me in the living room.
Oh, you're here too, sister-in-law?
Wendy's had too much to drink. We were taking her home, but she insisted on coming over here to check things out.
Chris stood in the doorway and glanced at me with a rather awkward expression on his face. Then his gaze swept to Ethan, his tone turning sharp and cold.
Ethan, your wife is home. Don't you know to keep a proper distance?
You're the one who got her this drunk and dragged her to my house, and you're telling me to keep a proper distance?
I got her drunk? It was you who posted that stupid moments about being single again. Fine, you're the noble, upstanding one. I've delivered the person who got drunk over you. Do with it what you will.
The atmosphere was thick with awkwardness.
All right, stop fighting. Wen just wanted to stop by on her way.
I stood in the living room watching them. Their coordination was flawless. If I hadn't heard them clinking glasses and plotting together with my own ears, I would have truly believed they hated each other's guts. For the longest time, I'd thought the bond between Sean, Chris, and me was unbreakable, impenetrable. I had even married both of them. My parents had passed away when I was young, and my grandfather was always busy with work. It was the two of them who filled my entire childhood and adolescence. When I was upset as a kid, Sean was always there to comfort me. Chris had even taken a knife from a mugger to protect me. To me, they were closer than family, but when did it start that the three of us, the best of friends, turned into this? It was probably the year my father remarried, and my stepmother moved into our house with Wendy. I'd just started high school back then, and Wendy was a year younger than me. At first, I didn't resent this new stepsister at all. I even wanted to get along with her well. But little by little, she started to take everything from me, intentionally or not. The attention of my friends, the affection of my elders, and in the end, even the people I liked were drawn to her one by one. I withdrew my gaze and looked at them no more. Some cracks didn't just appear today. It's just that today I was finally willing to see them. You've come at the perfect time.
There's something I'd like you all to witness in person.
I walked to the coffee table and picked up the divorce agreement.
2 copies. I've already signed. Since everyone's here, why not take a good look in person?
Ethan reacted quickly. I was voluntarily bringing up the divorce in front of Sean and Chris. I was proving to them just how far I could go for him.
Scarlett, we can discuss this privately. There's no need to...
Since sister-in-law has already brought it out, then may I ask one question? When are you moving out?
The living room fell silent for a moment. Ethan frowned slightly. Wendy didn't look at him, just looked at me, her expression innocent.
This house, it's under my name. You can't just keep living here forever, can you?
I froze. The house. Under her name. I instinctively looked at Ethan, but he avoided my gaze. In that instant, countless images surged through my mind. The day we moved in, he held my hand and said,
This is our home. I'll handle all the paperwork, don't you worry about a thing.
Happily, I took charge of picking out the curtains, the sofa, the dining table. Every piece of furniture here, I picked out trip after trip to the home furnishing mall. The decor here, all according to his preferences. I never cared whose name was on the property deed. But I never thought our marital home, belonging to us as husband and wife, would be under my stepsister's name.
I'm leaving right now.
Scarlett.
Tomorrow, 9 o'clock.
The city hall. I didn't look back. I pulled my suitcase to the door, changed my shoes, opened the door. I could still hear the sounds coming from inside.
Nailed it. Even more cooperative than when I begged her to get the certificate.
Laughter mixed with voices erupted dully from behind the door. I stood at the elevator, listening to this story that felt so unfamiliar. My reflection in the mirror looked calmer than I had imagined. It wasn't until I got into a taxi that my phone finally buzzed. A message from Ethan.
About the house. I'll explain to you. Be good. Find a place to stay for now. I'll come pick you up in a few days.
I stared at the screen for a few seconds, then flipped the phone over and laid it face down on my lap. Outside the car window, the streetlights receded one by one. Come pick me up in a few days. Saying it as if I had merely stepped out to buy groceries and would be back soon. I leaned back in the seat and closed my eyes.
No need for you to come pick me up.